Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to be working through lesson 11.2 for our Geometry and Fraction Concepts chapter. And so our essential question today is, how would you describe, right? How would you describe the faces of a rectangular prism and the faces of a cube? So we're going to be looking at rectangular prisms, and we're going to be looking at cubes, and we're going to be talking about the faces. So you should be able to describe the faces of those two shapes by the end of our lesson. So let's continue. So we're on page 711, that's 711, and the directions for the listen and draw say, circle the cones. So I want you to take a sec, I want you to look at these, what do we got, 6 shapes, and I want you to circle the cones. Okay, now I want you to draw an X on the sphere. So there's only one shape that's a sphere. I want you to draw an X on that shape. All right, so let's see. Let's check this out. So our first shape, we're going to actually name it, which kind of ties into our math talk question. The math talk question says, name the other shapes on this page, describe how they're different. So I'm going to name all the shapes as we go. So we'll start with this first shape, and this first shape is a cube, right? It's made from squares. All the different faces are squares. So this is a cube, and so we're not going to do anything with this because we're supposed to circle the cones and draw an X on the sphere. Okay, this next shape, looking at it, right, let's see, I see a circle, I see flat faces. This is a cone, so we're going to circle this. This is a cone. Okay, our next shape, right, it has no flat faces, right, so this is a sphere, right? If you think of a shape that's similar to a sphere or a real-life object, I would be thinking of a, like, soccer ball, basketball, right? Those are shapes that are shaped like a sphere, a globe. Our next shape has a circle at the top, right, flat face. It has a circle at the bottom, flat face, and then it has these round faces. This is a cylinder, and so we're not going to do anything with the cylinder. Okay. Our next shape here is looking at it, a cone, and so again, we're supposed to circle the cones. And then our last shape is another cube, just like this first one here. So we're not going to do anything with this guy right here. So we're supposed to describe, right, how the other shapes on this page are different than the ones we circled. So if you notice, this shape, this shape, this shape, these all have more than one flat face. Where if you look at the 3 that we circled, they have no flat faces, one flat face, one flat face, or one flat surface, right? Where these all have more than one flat face or flat surface. So let's go to the next page. On this page, the model and draw, it says the faces of a cube are squares, which I kind of described, okay? And so then there's more parts of a cube that we've talked about before. There's the face, right? Those are the flat sides. There's the edges. That's the skinny line right here. All of these are edges, right? So there's several edges on a square. So if we were to count all the edges, there's 4 on this side, 4. And then on this side, there's 4 more. So 4 plus 4 is 8, and then there's 4 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, right, following these edges here. So 4 more, so 8 plus 4 more is 12. So there are 12 edges. Then there's these vertices. These are what we normally would call corners, but in math terms, if we're going to use the correct math word, right, these are vertices, right, because there's more than one. If we're talking about just one, right, like this one, this is a vertex. But more than one, the vertices are the corner points of the cube. So if we're talking about more than one vertex, we're talking about vertices. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 vertices on this cube, any cube, okay? To be factual about it, right? Any cube is going to have that same number of faces and vertices. So for each of these shapes, right, it says write how many for each. So for looking at this rectangular prism, again, that's what we're supposed to be thinking about for this lesson. How many faces are there? How many edges and how many vertices? And then for this cube, how many faces, how many edges, and how many vertices? So go ahead and pause your video, and I want you to go through, and I want you to figure out how many edges, how many faces, edges, and vertices there are in these two shapes, and you're going to write the answers on the blanks. So go ahead and pause your video and do that for a sec. All right, so hopefully you are all done. And you're unpausing your video because you're done. So let's see, this rectangular prism, there are 1, 2, 3, or actually we're counting faces first. So there's one at the top, one at the bottom, so that's 2. And then we go around the outside, that's 4 more, right? So that's 6 faces all together. So 6. Then if we count the edges, there's 4 here, and then there's 4 around the bottom, so that's 8. And then there's 4 around the outside, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that means they're, oh, geez, we're not counting faces, we're counting edges. So edges, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 8. And then 9, 10, 11, 12. That one you can't see back there, so that's 12 edges. And then if we're going to count the vertices, right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it looks like we have 8 vertices. Okay, we'll do the same thing with this cube. So faces, right, that's the flat parts. There's 1, 2 at the bottom, and then 4 around the outside. So 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay, and then we're going to count the edges. There are 4 around the top, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's 8, and then 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 edges. And then for our vertices, we're going to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have 8 vertices. So it's the same number. I'm noticing the same number of faces, edges, and vertices for a rectangular prism and a cube. So we're going to move on to the next page in our book, which is page 713. That's 713. And the directions say, use dot paper, follow these steps to draw a cube. So if you want to draw a cube, okay, using dot paper, right, you're not going to have dot paper at home, but you can still give this a try on a regular sheet of paper, maybe in your notebook or whatnot. We're gonna go through the steps, and step 1 says draw a square, make each side 4 units long. So what you want to do is you want to try to draw a square and make sure the sides are equal like that. Okay? Now you're going to draw edges from the vertices like this. So from this vertice, you're going to draw edge. And from this vertice, you're going to draw edge. So you're going to go from 3 vertices. And so these are equal lengths, these lines, these edges. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3, just like in the drawing. And then step 3, you're going to draw 1, 2 more edges. So you're going to connect. It's almost like connecting the dots. So we're going to connect that one, and we're going to connect this guy right here. Okay? And then, if you want to be able to draw the edges, or the edges in the faces that are not seen, you're going to draw a dotted line right here, and here, and here. So I like to draw a dot, which is going to tell me where to draw the edges to. And then I'm going to connect this corner. Okay, so connect that corner with me. Okay, and then we're going to connect this vertex, or corner, right here, like that. And then you connect this one, and you can draw a dash line, or you can draw a solid line. You can draw it like that. And now you have a cube. Isn't that cool? Okay, all right, let's continue on. All right, so let's look at the Think Smarter problem. Use the words on the tiles to label the parts of the cube. So what is this part pointing to? This part right here, this flat part. What is this part? Write the name right there. And then last, what is this part? What is this called? Is it called an edge, face, or vertex? So go ahead and take a second and write those. All right, so here's what I came up with. This first part right here, right, this flat part, this is called a face. I'm going to blow this up so it's easier to write. There we go. Okay, this next part that the next arrow is pointing to right here, these are called, right, we remember, an edge. And then this last part we usually like to call corners, but right, the math name for it is called a vertex. And again, remember, when there's more than one, we call them vertices. Now we're supposed to describe the faces of a cube. Well, take a minute and think about how many faces does a cube have, right? So I'm going to help you out. I'm going to start you off, give you a sentence starter. A cube has, and then tell me how many faces a cube has. A cube has blank faces. So go ahead and pause your video and do that. A cube has blank faces. How many faces? All right, you're back. So a cube should have 6 faces, we learned earlier. Okay. Now tell me about the faces. Right? So here's another sentence starter. Each face, that's a F, not a C. Each face is a, and what shape is each face? Go ahead and pause your video and write what shape each face is. All right, hopefully you came up with each face is a, your best spelling of the word square. Each face is a square. Nice job. All right, let's continue. Let's tell you what your homework pages are. All right, you're going to be working through this page here, and you're going to be looking at different sets of shapes and deciding, do these shapes make this shape, or do these shapes make that shape? Same thing here. Looking at these shapes and these shapes, which shapes make a cube? And then you'll continue and you'll do page 716, answering questions about cubes and rectangular prisms. We got a clock question, we got some more shape questions, and then a lie and plot question, so some data, some graphing. All right, good luck.